Welcome back to Crossroads. Summer's in full swing right now, and the sun is out and it's warm out here. But a common problem that a lot of people have is getting some garden in the shade. And so we're here with John Buck from John Buck Landscaping. He's going to just give us a little overview of what kind of things you can plant when it is shady outside. John, what kind of things should people get started if they have a backyard that's got a lot of trees, there's a lot of shade, there's not a lot of sun? What kind of things can they do to actually have some color and some pop in their backyard?
Well, where I'd start with is like this, get some height and get some background. This is an oak leaf hydrangea. You can see it's getting ready to start blooming. This will be bright white, gives you some height. And then you have the astilbes, they're getting ready to bloom now. They do real well in the shade. The boxwood, so you got some variation in texture and color. You got ferns, and then what these folks have here too, they've added, which these are all perennials, but this is in our climate, that is an annual, but it's a caladium. You can see how it's got some color to it. The sunspot euonymus, you got some low growth there. But variety is important. You know, they have a lilac here. This is done blooming now for the year, but again, you have some height and some background. You have variety and leaf texture. So.
Now, I also noticed this is beautiful out here, but there's also a lot of lawn ornaments just to kind of add some color. Why is that so important?
Well, in a shaded area, you're so limited as to what you can use, but it gives you variety. You know, it just adds to it gives you a garden feel. Just like even these paver,
the walkway.
The walkway. And the plants like that. When you're in a shaded area like this, you're so limited. Although this one has a lot more variety than most places you would see, but. The lawn ornaments, they just add a lot to it. They just add more variety, more height, depth, more feel, more of a personal. It's a personal thing too. As everyone else, everybody has a different feel for what they like to have, and they have this. You have the little birds down here. You got the balls. You got the light lamps, things like that. The fountain back here, I don't know if you can see it or not. Maybe you can get a shot of that in a little bit, but it just adds a lot to a garden. It gives it a garden feel it's not formal, but yet it's just really, it's personal. It's a personal garden.
So somebody just has a shaded area in their backyard and they decide they're going to try to do this. What would you suggest be the first thing they do to try and start an organized area like this with the shade? In
the shade, I like the hydrangeas, and there are different kinds of hydrangeas. That's oak leaf hydrangea, which I pointed out. There are different kinds. I don't know if we have any more here. Hostas, and there's so many varieties of these. You have variegated ones like this one over here, and this one here, and they do bloom. There was one that was blooming. We were looking at a little bit here behind you. That's an
oh yeah, that's really pretty.
And some of them bloom blue, some of them bloom white, but it's not just the bloom, it's really the leaf texture. Some of them are, you can see the difference between this one and this one and this one. All three of those are hostas, but they have different leaf textures. I would go with those. This is a hosta too, but it's just a little one. But I go with hydrangeas, hostas, and then the astilbes, which they bloom too. And even when those blooms are done, it's just a little early yet this year. When they're done and they're done blooming, they dry up and they still have a feathery, well, you can see here, this one's a little further along. They have a kind of a feathery look to them.
And that kind of softens something. And I saw there's color and there's white and there's all the different textures. That really does make for really interesting area out here.
Yeah.
If you can't have those flowers, it's probably what you want to strive for.
It's hard to get things to bloom in the shade. And so there are things that will bloom, like the hostas and the astilbes, but like adding color like these caladiums, using color variation like the sunspot euonymus underneath that dapple willow there. Add color, not necessarily in blooms. And something else that blooms really nice is bleeding heart.
Uh-huh.
And they bloom early.
Yeah, those are pretty.
But even when they're done, and there's white ones too, there's different kinds. Donna has different kinds of, there's white ones, and then this is a very unusual kind of bleeding heart. But they're really nice. And then of course the coral bell, the color of the leaves, see they're dark, but those will bloom too. They're little tiny, they look like little bells hanging down.
Yeah, well, this is great. I'm excited to see everybody's gardens once they get, started in the shade. And yeah, well, thank you for sharing that with us. It's really beautiful out here. And if you get the chance to do some gardening in the shade, as you can see, you can do a lot with it, and you can do a lot of landscaping with that. Well, just ahead on Crossroads, we're gonna see how some clowns make kids smile. We'll be right back.